Yeah,
Okay, great.
let me put it live here on YouTube already.
Is
And
everyone here?
how are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good, very good. So is Michael gonna
He said he was hopping on.
yeah,
I think it's just loading for him.
okay. So yeah, I
Let me
appreciate
message
you
him.
guys
Is everyone here?
being
How are
here
you?
today.
Good, how are you?
Very good,
Uh,
very good. So
is
hold on.
Michael
Sorry. That's
He
the
said he was hopping on. Oh,
okay, some setups here. So yeah, Michael is yeah, let him. All right, so Michael is here. So what happened is I have like a mentorship group that I do calls every Wednesday. So we all Brazilians, but don't worry. I mean, we mostly speak English.
okay.
What might happen is like uh, if they want to ask some questions, if they are not like comfortable speaking English, they might speak in Portuguese, and then I can just translate to you
Okay.
guys. But yeah, so don't worry. And then what I did is on the Zoom link, I have like the members of my membership. Not all of them watch live. Some of them are in Brazil, some are like in Europe. But we have around 90 people that is part of this membership. But I open up. So today it's open on my Zoom channel as well. I mean, on my
Okay.
YouTube channel as well. So again, so appreciate your time, and I'm very excited to hear from you guys and to see what the Smart Scout can offer. So I
Yeah, of
use
course.
Smart Scout for a while, but it's so much information there that it's you lose track when you start
Right.
using it. So it's nothing better than have an expert um, explaining to us. So if you could just like introduce yourselves
Yeah.
and then we can start.
Yeah. Michael, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm really going to be just sitting in with you guys. But my name is Michael Rajaszewski. I'm the head of the affiliate partnership program. So I help put this together with Gustavo. But we're joined by Brock, our head of sales, who will introduce himself, and he's been with Smart Scout for many years now. So I can't think of anybody better and more in tune with our tools and features than Brock. So I'm excited about this.
Nice.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, I've been working at Smart Scout for 2 years. I actually started in sales. I'm still in sales, but now I'm the head of enterprise sales. So I've been able to be with the tool as it developed and talk with a lot of different customers and users, and I'm super excited to show it off to you guys today. Um, now
So
I'm a
how
little,
long
oh, what
how
was
long
that?
Smart Scouts have been in the market? It's not too long, right? Like
About
a
about
good
3 years. Yeah.
3 years. Yeah,
Three. hmm Yeah, so I've been with it with about for about 2 years. I was started when it was just a wholesale tool. Now it's kind of expanded quite a bit into brands and agencies, enterprise level areas.
nice.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, I guess the question I have for you, Gustavo, um, what are you mainly hoping to get out of the tool for you and your members?
Well, yeah, it's a good question because you guys offer so much information that we have. I mean, we have members here that we do a little bit of pretty much everything. We have wholesale. We've been doing a lot of bundles lately and
Okay.
arbitrage. And I watched the call last week. That was great. Uh, and I was just telling Michael, if you guys could just show us, like pretty much the basic for like a private label for arbitrage and for wholesale, that would be great.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I'll try to breeze through it. And how much time do we have today? I just want to double check so
that's
it's all
completely up to you guys.
okay. All right, great. Yeah, let me share my screen and we can get things started. So we're going to be walking through, just to kind of reiterate, some Okay, yeah, my screen is sharing correctly. Wholesale, arbitrage, and a bit of private label. You mentioned that you guys have been doing quite a bit of bundling lately too. We have a tool for that as well. So I'm excited. Question, you guys are mainly based in Brazil, but you sell in the US
Uh,
market?
Now we do have people in Brazil, but the majority it's in the US.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, great. So we'll start with the brand side, the wholesale side. Um, Now, there's three main roadblocks when getting into Amazon. That's competing with Amazon, exclusive relationships, and then also, competing sellers. So we want to get rid of all of those. We're going to look at our database and we're going to look at our database and see out of all of the brands on Amazon, which ones are the most eligible for wholesaling. So we'll start with the Amazon in-stock rate. This is the Amazon competition. We'll put between 0 and 10%. The next one is monthly revenue. It doesn't matter so much on this one, but you do want to make sure that the brand is selling. So we'll put 20,000 in there. Next one, average number of FBA sellers. This one's gonna get rid of the exclusivity. So, sorry, not the exclusivity. It's gonna make sure they're open to wholesalers, and get rid of the exclusivity. So on this left side, we'll put 2. On the right side, we'll put 10. This
Yeah.
is just gonna make sure that it's not oversaturated with the sellers themselves. So from there, we can hit search. Now, there's one more thing we want to do, and that is scroll over and go to this dominant seller portion. So the dominant seller is just whoever has the most sales for the brand, whoever's selling the most. And for that one, we're just going to look at the percentage, make sure that there's no one doing too much of the sales for one brand. I'm going to max that out at about 60%. So now we have about 3,000 brands. All of these brands are brands that have little to no Amazon competition. Their average number of FBA sellers is enough so that there's no exclusivity, and then no one dominates completely in the brand. So these are all either very good brands to arbitrage or to wholesale from. And we'll click into one of these guys, just Milwaukee for an example. Now, as a wholesaler or arbitrager, I'm really going to stay in these products or sellers tabs. All of these are less important to me. Right now, we're in the dashboard, so it's going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek into the rest of these tabs. But I'm going to go into the products. These are going to be all of the products that we have for them in SmartScout. And to speak a little to that, we take all of the products doing at least, or they're in at least a top 200,000 ranking per category on Amazon. Now, these are all the products which we can filter through, make sure that they have products that meet our criteria based on size and pricing. But before we waste our time with that, just to make sure, we want to check on the sellers tab. This is where we'll see our competition, and we'll also be able to kind of gauge if it's a brand that is heavily competitive, like people are arbitraging it, or if it's just a lot of wholesalers. The way that I tell that is the number of sellers. So there's over 1,000, and they all have a pretty even share. That would tell me they're probably a lot of arbitragers, and the guys at the top, they're the ones with the wholesale relationships. So just based on this, I do know I can look into it. I do know that depending on my target goal for revenue, if I'm wholesaling or arbitraging, depending on my target goal, I'll be able to look at these sellers and see if this is possible for me to do as well. Now to do that, I'll check on the seller, look at the details. I can see that this seller is doing about 200,000 a month. The reason why I'm checking the seller size is to make sure that the barrier to entry, essentially, to be able to sell this much for this brand. It can tell us a little bit more about that in gaining traction. Once I've qualified this brand in realizing that I can sell it, I'm going to go to the products so that when I approach that distributor, I know exactly what I'm looking for and I know exactly what price point it's at because that's going to come across a lot better instead of just asking them for a price list. So I'm going to go over here, buy box price. A lot of the wholesalers I work with, they try to keep it between 20 and 80 to mitigate risk and try to have a higher volume in that buy box price. This next thing is the number of sellers. If I don't want any competition, maybe I'll max that out at 10. And then you can see the monthly revenue estimate here, and maybe I'll make a minimum of 10,000 there as well. So now I have a list. I think there were over 1,000 products for this brand. Now I have a list of 12 that I can then approach a distributor or maybe the brand directly, and I know exactly what I'm looking for. And again, it just comes across so much better. As well as obviously a lot of these other sellers, they're not thinking to sell this as well.
On my Smart Scout, I have a supplier list. I don't see
Right.
the supplier on yours.
So I have mine in a bit of a different view. I have mine in an agency view. The suppliers list will only show within the wholesaling view or the reseller view.
Okay.
And to be quite frank, that suppliers database, it's static, so it's not being updated. It's about I think it's 2 to 6,000 of like just suppliers websites. I don't rely on it too much if I'm doing wholesale strategy.
Okay. I was about to ask you about the suppliers, how you guys get
Mhm.
those
Yeah.
suppliers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Scott, he's been in the space for 10 years, so he's found a lot of different suppliers and ones that
Mhm.
could possibly help, but you'd be sorting through a lot of junk.
Yeah, and I mean
Yeah.
it's part of it. I mean, even if you source for
Yeah,
new suppliers, you can open account for I mean 100 and buy from two.
right, exactly.
It's a starting point. Now I was checking out the suppliers in my area, like in New Hampshire,
Uh-huh.
and I just found like a very interesting one, like a stuffed toy one that sells really good on Amazon, and I'm about to
Mhm.
contact them. So, and and I do have lots of suppliers that I use and is on the list as well. So
Yeah. And did you find that Smart Scout helped with that as well? Or
yeah,
is that something separate? Okay.
yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. So yeah, this is how, I'd take these ASINs, um, and just check to see if they're profitable. But then I at least know, based on their buy box price, I at least know what price I need to purchase them at and to be profitable based on my margins. Or maybe you can negotiate with your supplier a little bit.
and for arbitrage, you can just download the list, right?
Right.
The
Yeah,
eight,
so if you want to export this list, and then start searching the web for that, that would work as well.
yeah.
Yeah. One thing too, I can take this and run it through the UPC scanner. And that way I can actually, so if I click on UPC scanner,
Ah, nice.
I'll scan all of these guys.
Ah, nice. Yeah, I didn't know that. See?
Yeah. Oh, and we'll say masterclass. It may take a second to load, but then we can look at that. It's going to put all the ASINs in, and to
Mhm.
check my profitability, I'm just going to go to product cost. And if it's a $55 price, I have somewhat of an idea of like the margin and the cost that I need. So if I put like $30 in, then I know the net margin would be like 17%, and I can just play with these prices. So then like that's all I really have to do. It kind of takes out the calculating step that you'd have to do, and
Mhm.
just makes it a lot faster. So whatever this percentage has to be, you just play with it until it hits that percentage, and then you have your request for that supplier.
Nice.
Hmm. And if I click into here, I can also double check some product details. One, I'm going to see all of the other sellers in the buy box and what their dominance looks like there.
Can you see the
And then
inventory of the other sellers as well? No?
say that again.
Can you see the inventory of the other sellers as well?
Not the inventory, no.
Mm.
Mm-mm. To see that, I mean, I know there's other tools out there that does that. We just don't. So, but you're going to be able to see their buy box and their price that they have. So the reason this guy has quite a bit is they keep the lowest price.
Mhm.
The other important factor, especially when you're arbitraging, when there's a lot of seller saturated listings, is to check the average price here to make sure that you kind of know what you're getting into. If our software says $65, it may have just snapped it or snatched it at a time that it was at $65. So you just want to double check what the average is or what it looks like the average is. And then I can also check the rank, make sure that it's consistently high ranking, and that I'll be able to sell it even if it sits in inventory for a little longer than I expected.
Mhm.
Great. Um, should we do questions throughout, or do we want to do it all at the end?
I mean, if anyone has questions right now, I'm okay.
Okay, great. So yeah, that was a mainly wholesale focused use of the tool. Now, like I was saying before, you can look at tools like Milwaukee or brands like Milwaukee, Nike. Nike is heavily arbitraged, so I can do the same thing with that. Look for the products that fit my criteria. But this is a good example of an arbitrage brand. I'll
Mhm.
see there's a high amount of sellers, and no one seller has complete control. That would be a good indicator of like an arbitrage and an arbitrage brand. And then I know what to look for with other brands to start arbitraging them as well.
And you can also go to the sellers page, right? And then see the
Mhm.
product they carry and maybe
Correct.
start from there as well, right?
Yeah, you can navigate through there. So if I go to Max Athletics, I'll go to the offers there. I can see all of the products that they sell individually. I can see the
Mhm.
buy box that they have on that product. I can
Percent.
also go to their brands. So if this seller is like me, for example, and I'll get into this with the strategy in just a second, but if this seller is like me, um, I can then go to my collections, add all of these to a collection, which is just a folder that you can access later.
Mhm.
But that way I know I can just compute a list of brands, like 100 brands that I know other arbitragers or other sellers are selling, and start going after those as well.
Yeah, because what happens a lot when you like looking for products for wholesale that you're searching something on a specific distributor,
Mhm.
that you will start realizing it's always the same sellers that are on those listings, no? So
Mhm.
that way you could maybe create a collection with the sellers and go over
Right.
all the brands they sell. And
Mhm.
so it's kind of like a shortcut to go to that list because now you know. So I know this guy is buying from the same supplier as I am, and he's
Exactly.
selling out those brands. So let me just see what kind of products they have. And so I'm gonna do like a manual search on the suppliers list.
Mhm.
But I'm coming out from like I'm not. So I'm coming out from the list of my suppliers. My supply. I mean, not supply. My competitors list. So
Mhm.
I know for sure that they buy from that supplier. I know for sure. So if they buy from there, I'll be able to find it as well. So it's the collection feature.
Mhm.
I think it's pretty good for that. So you
Yeah.
can create collection for like a distributor, and then inside of that collection, you can put the sellers or the products of those sellers, and so it make it easier for like a manual search when you
Mhm.
look for products.
Yeah, it makes things quite a bit more custom. And so I'll just to visualize it a little bit, I'll click on one of these guys. It's kind of like your own Smart Scout in a folder. So I can look at all the brands I've saved, the products that I've saved, the sellers that I saved, depending on what project I'm working for,
Uh-huh.
or project I'm working on. It's very helpful in that way.
Nice.
Yeah. So moving on to the sellers, this is another filter or tool that's going to help arbitrage as well as wholesale because this is more location based. So you guys are probably all familiar with the strategy of going to a seller, use the storefront stocking, and going to a seller and seeing what they're selling and then trying to sell the same thing.
Yep.
This one is basically the same or identical, but it allows you to create filters that make the situation more relevant to yourself. So I can go in and I'll create like a persona. Let's say this person lives in New York. And I can even go to a specific city. But let's say this person lives in New York, and they do about 150,000 a month in sales. So we'll max it out at 300,000. And they specialize in beauty, personal care, baby products, and let's go to one more relevant, grocery and gourmet food. Those are pretty common categories. So now we have a list, and the more you filter down, the more filters that you use, the more granular or specific, the smaller the list is going to be, if that makes sense. But all of these guys, and I'll even add in percent FBA, minimum, or yeah, minimum 90% if they're mostly FBA. So I can now go and see there's 18 sellers like myself that I can then go in and see if they're selling anything different from me. And I know that I could probably source that as well. So sorry, one more filter, I forgot. My bad. This full brand coverage, we're just gonna make it 0. So it's gonna actually filter it down quite a bit. And the reason we're gonna make it 0 is because max at 0 is because if these people are doing 200,000 a month in sales and they don't have any dominance at all in any brand, it means that they're probably a wholesaler or an arbitrager.
Yeah.
And this full brand coverage, just to clarify, this is the number of brands that they have 60% or more of the sales in. So they kind of have brand dominance. There's a good chance that they would either be the brand owner or they have an exclusive relationship, and we don't want to work with that. So I'll go into one of these guys, brand coverage. Now I can see all the different brands that they're selling and how they're doing on those brands, their brand percentage estimate. They mostly sell Burt's Bees, but it's only 2% of the market of Burt's Bees. So I'm going to come over here and go to offers. Bees. Now I can see every product that they sell. I can see their buy box percentage. So they actually have a pretty low buy box percentage as well. I would be fairly confident that this is a good brand to start targeting for wholesale or arbitrage because they're not going to gate me on anything. And this is their top product. So, and I know the reason why the location is important is because I know that if they're able to source this and be profitable, then I probably could too if I'm near their location.
The location, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Any questions for me so far?
Any questions? Let me see. Hi, everyone.
Good to go.
Presenting, writing down any questions. Okay, no, Michael.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think we're okay.
Okay, good. All right. We already went through UPC scanner. Now we can kind of move to the private label portion of it. Gustavo,
Brock, before you do,
yeah.
do you want to just quickly show the seller map? How basically
yes.
The seller map is nice. The seller map is really nice.
This is really cool to look at. So
yeah.
If I'm over here, first of all, it's going to show the location, a visual of all the sellers that we have. I shouldn't say all, it'll show the top 300,000 at most. But it's going to show their locations, and I can zoom in and see that. You'll see different colored bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
The purple bubbles are the resellers or wholesalers, and the gold bubbles, the yellow bubbles, are the private labels and brands. So I can really zoom in and kind of, just have some fun with it.
Yeah, and you can start, I mean, you can have some fun, but you can do some serious business as well, because you can click on the seller, and then from there you see the products, you see the brands,
Yes.
and you find the supplier, and then you know.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. That's that's a good point. So you can do kind of what we were just doing in the tool, but just zoom in on that guy, and then I can click on them, go to their different offers,
Yeah.
the products that they sell, the brands that they sell. There you go. Thanks for bringing that up, Gustavo.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really nice. I mean, you can. I use it to say to my people that you go to like a black hole. You know, when
Hmm.
you do like a product research, you dive into a black hole because you
Right.
start from like a brand or a seller or a product, and then from there you find another seller, then you find another product, then you
Hmm.
find another seller in a new category, and there you go. So when you see that you
Yeah.
spend like a half an hour, 40 minutes, and you start for like one
Yeah.
point, and then you're like all the way like on the other side, and but
Yeah.
that's good. I mean, I love when the tools offer all those features because you know more information for us. It's better, and then if you know how to take advantage of that, so you always it's advantage against your competitor as well.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And it can be really easy in any situation. It can be easy to get into a sort of analysis paralysis
Yeah.
when you're having to dig through all those black holes.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
this definitely helps kind of put it to a point and make it like these are the most profitable decisions. Like there's nothing better that I could be finding
Yeah.
at this time. So yeah. Well, great.
Actually,
Those,
uh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have a
oh, no
question
worries.
actually about because this is the only feature I use on Smart Scout is actually the seller map,
Okay.
and I mostly use it for storefront stalking.
Okay.
And I do both wholesale and online arbitrage.
Mhm.
Um, and one of the things that I've noticed, so it is the fact that sometimes when I open, when I'm looking, usually on the filters, I just go for like like maximum of $50,000 revenue,
Right.
just to try to find online arbitrage sellers. When sometimes when I open their storefront to see what products they're selling, usually the ones that they sell the most that have higher revenue come up first.
Hmm.
But many times when I click on those and I check on, for example, AC Insight or AC Zen, and I go to the stock checker just to figure out how much stock they are,
Hmm.
they are buying. Um, many times when I do that, they're not on the listing anymore. I mean, they're not selling that
Right.
product anymore. So I'm just wondering, like, how you guys are, like, if you're bringing the data like every day, or is just something that they sold, because the majority of the time I have to go on Keepa on buy box statistics, and I see, oh, they sold this product, but it was last month. So it's not,
Right.
the data is not showing me like the recent
Mhm.
the recent revenue. I don't know. I believe, is that true, or
Yeah, so I mean, there's a few things that we could kind of dive into there. One thing, Smart Scout has about a 2 to 3 week cadence update on like the product level, the ASIN level. So that could be one of the reasons why it's not showing. Another thing is that I know the other tools in terms of the storefront stocking and stuff, they can be they're very nice directionally, but they can be inaccurate. So that is another reason that could be happening. Now, kind of where the use case and the benefit comes from using Smart Scout is in that regards is that they were selling it at one point and they were profitable. So that's kind of where the opportunity comes in. As far as like it being very current and instant, that's not something that we would be good at. And that would be if you're looking for, very instantaneous things like that, it would probably be best to use some of those other tools in that regard.
okay? And that
Mhm.
does apply not only for what I mentioned, but also the revenue, correct? So if I find like the seller
Correct.
at the point is like selling 50,000, it doesn't mean that
Mhm.
is this. It means like it's referring to that this month, correct? Could be the
Yeah.
past month, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that is correct. So it's the way that I explain it is it's a 30-day revenue estimate within the last like 40 to 50 days.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And just one very last question.
Yeah, for sure.
So with this tool, there's any way you could kind of filter what is like if you like I'm just basically I just go and use a filter of reseller and for example 50,000 max.
Mhm.
Is there any way that you could kind of like separate or like who's doing wholesale and who's doing arbitrage? Because sometimes it's just like a hit or miss. I have to like look for a lot of stores around my area,
Right.
and probably the 10th is the one that is doing arbitrage. Is there
Right.
any way that I could use this tool, but kind of, just find who's doing like online arbitrage, for example, and separate?
Specifically Smart Scout, I mean, sorry, specifically Seller Map or just Smart Scout in
No,
general?
seller map. Yeah.
Um, so not for Seller Map.
Okay.
Yeah, just because there's not enough data just immediately in front of us.
Okay.
Now if you're using the seller's tool, you could use it in that like arbitrageurs typically are selling a lot of different products instead of just like a few that they're able to create a relationship with. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have to dig on those features that you were
Right.
talking about
Okay.
earlier. Okay,
Yeah, for
thank you.
sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Maybe if
And
you guys could add the number of feedbacks on the filter for the seller map, that would help to filter for arbitrage sellers.
okay, number of feedbacks.
Yeah, because we know like who
Mhm.
does arbitrage, it's not receive as many feedback as someone who does wholesale,
Right.
and you can filter by like number of feedbacks in the last 30 days.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that's what usually we do when you search for sellers on KeepUp, for example.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's yeah, again, yeah, and that's something we do have on the seller's tool, but we could add in the seller's map. That's a good point. Awesome. Any other questions that came up during that conversation?
Nope.
Okay, great. We'll transition into the private label portion now. Now, Gustavo, we have a lot of different kind of tools for private labels, kind of being and like from the beginning of the product life to the top end where it's already booming and successful. Is there a specific portion you want me to focus on, or do you want me just to show everything from launch to managing the campaigns?
I think we could show a little bit of how to filter for like a potential good product,
Hmm.
based on the other brands or
Okay.
the sellers.
Yeah, for sure.
I know it's
So,
a lot of filters, otherwise it's going to take like
oh no,
five.
yeah, you're okay. So, yeah, what I'll do, I'll filter through that and then I'll try to touch on these because we do have a lot of keyword tools that are quite beneficial. But I'll try to touch on the most important very quickly, and then we can open up the end to questions if anyone wants me to dive in more um, into those tools. I'll go back and do that at that time.
Right.
Okay, awesome. So for now, we'll like how to launch a successful product, or I guess a product in a non-competitive category. So that's going to be in our subcategories tool. Right here is a subcategory tree. So we have about 28 categories from Amazon in our system, but there's over 40,000 subcategories. So quite a few to go through and filter. Um, Now, as you guys probably know this, every product has to find its way into the lowest category. We call those leaf subcategories because they're at the end of the tree branch. So these leaf subcategories there's about 20,000 of them. And we're going to use these filters to figure out which ones would be the best, like competitively, um, to each other, to maybe launch a product in. And then from there, we can go in and see what products are selling. So the way that we formatted this niche finder as well is just to have the columns or like the titles of the columns be formulated around that competition. So we have the top brand revenue share, the top brand itself, the number of brands within the subcategory, the proportion of ASINs earning 80% of the revenue. So all of these are going to be metrics that that we can use to basically find subcategories that are easier to enter into. So the first one being the Amazon revenue share. Well, let's just go back here, make sure that we're not skipping over anything. Yeah, we'll start with the Amazon revenue share. We might jump around a little bit, but we don't really want them to have that much share in it. A little bit is okay. So I'm going to do a minimum or a maximum of 30%. And again, this is stuff that depending on what you're comfortable with, or you can kind of check out on your own too. So maximum of 30%, that cuts it in half about. Next one, top brand revenue. Probably don't want anyone having too much of a share. So I mean, we'll max that out at 20%. And that's going to cut it down to about 3,000. Now, these other ones are kind of what you're comfortable with. So proportion of ASINs earning 80% of revenue. We'll also max that out, or no, minimum 20%, just to follow the 80-20 rule. And then here is kind of where it gets a little bit more granular. Number of single seller brands versus wholesale brands. That's going to kind of be up to you guys. If you want a wholesale saturated market to go into, that's fine. The brands may have less control over their ads and everything like that, so it could be a good thing. Or maybe you want more predictable competitors. It's kind of up to you. For now, we could maybe put not single seller. We'll go with the number of ASINs. If we want to max this out, we could say like 5,000. And that's still going to cut it down. And now the rest of these, I mean, we could go in and adjust every single column, which is if you're launching a product, that's what I would recommend. It's just a little bit tedious to do now. So we could go through all of those. But the last one I'm going to look at, the average age of listing. How old are these listings? How old are these subcategories that if I were to just launch, how hard would it be to get up to their level where they are? So I'm going to go with a younger one, maybe like 2 years, 600 days about. Now I have 97 subcategories, down from 20,000. So, and of course, it'll go down even more the more filters that you use. But we can now go into some of these subcategories, or if I have a relationship with a manufacturer that works well in toys, or like they do plastics, so toys would be great, or electronics, things like that. That's going to affect this main category search as well. But let's say that we do want to compete in the toys and games. So kids' electric vehicles, or maybe let's go to something less glamorous, but still high producing, like freestanding shoe racks. We'll go into the dashboard. From here, we're going to be able to see the whole market size, 18 million, number of reviews, the number of brands in here, Amazon competition versus seller, average page score. This is important because it kind of tells you how competitive do you need to be with your organic, like how tuned in do you need to be with your listing to compete well. And 8 is a pretty good average score, so you do need to do pretty well in that regards. Now we're going to look at all the other brands selling. This is kind of a gauge of how do they look. If we look over here at the market share change, how volatile is this market? It doesn't look too bad. I do see some that they'll jump up 20% and then drop 20% the next month. These ones are fairly small changes. So you know that if you can get in there and compete, it'll be consistent. It's not going to be as easy for a new guy to get in and just start stealing your market share. Now that also means that it could be harder, more of a long game for you to climb up the ranks. Now that I've kind of qualified all of these out, I can go to the products area and start looking at some of these pictures. I'm going to come over here and see who is the highest producing. So it's already filtered by revenue. And I can come and see which of these products are successful that I can come in and start competing with. Or in general, what products can I even produce? to obtain that. Are there any questions so far?
Yeah, can you filter by the listing score?
Yes. Let's go over here. Product page score, right there.
Yeah.
Mhm. So yeah, as you can see, all of these are pretty high scores.
Yeah.
One indicator that I find interesting, so if they have a low product page score and they're still highly competitive in the market, it means that they're spending money elsewhere on outside marketing funnels to bring traffic to their listing.
How is that determined? Like who makes that determination?
Oh, what I just said?
Well, yeah, on the money that's being spent or that score, like what's going into that score as
Oh,
well.
right.
Is that Amazon sees the money being spent, or is it being spent on Amazon?
Are you referring to the product page score or just the inference that I made?
The inference you made was the
Okay.
first part of it, and then the second part I wanted to know what went into the total score as well.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. So, that the inference is a little bit trickier. So that's just an inference that I made from being in the space for a long time. I have a background in business. It's what I got my degree in. So just that if they're not optimized on Amazon and they're still competing well, it's just they most likely do have or they're spending a lot of money on ads or ads outside of Amazon as well. So I apologize for sounding more concrete and direct. That's just an inference that I had made within myself. As far as the page score goes, this is a calculation essentially of how optimized this page is organically for Amazon. So it's not taking into account their ad spend. It's taking into account the number of words that they have, the number of search terms they have in their listing, the number of bullet points, the quality of pictures, things like that.
Yeah, I see
Got it.
that as
Thank you.
opportunity, right? Because if they have a low score and it's performing well, so
Mhm.
if I create a listing, if I can bring the same product and create a better listing, so most likely I'll be able to have a good result as well, right?
Right.
That's
Right. And yeah, there's a lot of different inferences we can make. That's why I love the data in it because I can go in here and see they either have a really great margin, they're able to because their picture is pretty photoshopped. It's not great.
yeah.
Um, but if they have a crazy good margin, then they're just dumping money into ads and they don't have to worry about the listing quality. So
Yeah, but then they don't have as much profit as
exactly.
they would if they
Yeah, if they just optimized, right?
optimize the
Yeah.
listing correctly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, these are all things that we can look into. The buy box price is something that we'd want to filter too, depending on what your entry capital is or where you want to compete. All great things. So
Yeah,
awesome.
I never use that specific strategy to find products for private label.
Hmm.
We basically, I mean, I use some specific software for that, but it's basically going through keywords, right?
Right.
So just getting like keywords with search volume, and it's different. I like it doing this way by the subcategory.
Hmm.
It's kind of like you see the products, right? Like by with
Right.
keywords, you don't see you pretty much you don't see you see the keyword, but you don't see the product.
Yeah.
That way, you have all the numbers in front of you. I like it.
Yeah, it's kind of more market size approach and
Yeah.
competitive. Yeah. We do have a tool for what you were just saying too. It's the popping topics tool. We just released it not too long ago. But it will show the historical keyword data. Whatever keyword you put in, um, you'll be able to kind of use that and see if it's consistently highly searched or maybe it's just searched recently and you want a seasonal private label product,
So
whatever
it's
you'd
like
like.
a trend, right? It's pretty much a Google trend.
Right, right.
You put the keyword there, and it shows, if it's keep constantly or it's changed.
Hmm.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, exactly. Awesome. So yeah, so I don't want to run out of time. I want to leave time at the end. But I'll try to touch on some of these other keyword tools that we have. Probably the most important one, as far as creating a new product and just kind of getting it out as fast as you can is this AI listing architect. So what it does is you create a listing. You can also use this as a strategy to build or update your own listings, but you can create a listing or update a listing, and you'll put it into this tool, and it's going to show you the listing as is on Amazon. Or if you're creating a listing, it's going to ask you for an ASIN similar to the one that you are trying to create, and it's going to build it off of that. So it's going to take it as it is on Amazon. As you guys can see, it's not too optimized for Amazon itself. We're going to analyze using our keyword tools. We're going to analyze the subcategory that it's in, as well as the other common products that use the same search terms that they do. And it's going to analyze that and try to build a better listing off of that. So from here, I'll go to the advanced view. I'm going to type in witty or select witty, say generate all.
That's nice.
And then it may take a second because it's writing it out, but essentially it's going to take words from this keyword bank that we've deemed the best, and it's going to try to build a listing with it. So these are the new bullet points.
That's nice. And it goes by relevance, right? So they make sure to use all the relevant keywords and
correct. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And then if you connect your Amazon account, you can just click publish and it'll go right to Amazon.
So you actually create the listing for you on Amazon?
Yes. Yeah. It won't have the pictures, but as long as you have like the listing tied to the ASIN, it should update it for you.
What about the
within your
brands?
account.
Where do you put the brands there?
The what? I'm sorry.
The brands and the UPC, all the kind of stuff that it's mandatory when you create a listing.
Right. So it won't create a new one if you just are updating one that you already have created. So if you are creating a new listing, at that point, I would just either copy these bullet points and title and put it in there, or I would just export it, something like that.
Okay.
And on that point, Gustavo, what you were saying as well, if you create a second, let's say Liquid Death already existed, I mean, is it ever recommended to create a second listing that is similar, or or enhance the one you have, like you're saying? So if you had it, it's yours, it's enhance it, great. If there's one that you're under and it's not great listing, is it a suggestion you create a second one?
If you did not create that listing, if you just join a listing that is already created, you're not going to be able to change the information.
No, I understand that, but what about creating this a similar one? Let's say it's not written well, and then create a second one, or is that not recommended? Creating a second Liquid Death, in this case, a second Liquid Death that looks better, acts better, and is then related to to us individually.
Yeah, I mean, again, you won't be able to create with the brand Liquid Death, because like you don't own this brand, so Amazon will not let you create the listing under that brand.
If it was like your product, you could relaunch it under another SKU and create the listing, but that's not often advised. It's only like in worst case scenario situations.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
But it's good. Okay. I mean, it's a good strategy to optimize your listing, because I mean, when you create a list, when you have a private label, you have to be constantly optimizing on listing. You're always making changes and making your listing better, and that's really good. What is I don't know, because what it's recommended, it's not changing. I mean, it's not recommended to change the entire title, for example, because Amazon may consider a different product, and re-index the product again and everything. But I mean, I love the tools. I love the practice. All the information. I wouldn't just change the entire list at once, but I would definitely get some information about like the valuable keywords, like the most relevant keyword, and make sure I'll add like a couple at a time on my listing. But it's good. It's really good. Especially, but if you create a brand new listing, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah, got it. Yep, appreciate that. Yeah, I sometimes on the more popular ones, I see 2, 3, 4, 5 listings. People have altered things, for one reason or another, so they can get it listed or they change something on it. And so Amazon doesn't recognize it as different, but it actually is the same. I mean, they don't recognize it as the same, but it appears to be the same, when you look at it.
Uh-huh. Well, it's Amazon. I mean, they have a policy. There is a policy you cannot create a duplicate listing, but it's impossible for them to manage that, unfortunately.
Yeah. I've had other customers too, so they'll use the AI listing architect as a method to create relationships with wholesalers. I mean, not wholesalers, brands to wholesale. Just because if they have a poor listing and it could do better, that you want to sell it, they just offer a value and just say, hey, I like redid your listing, and like it just provides or creates a environment of trust. And
it's a nice print.
so,
I mean, if you want to do like a presentation, you can even use like a print screen because shows the relevance,
right.
keyword, the search volume of the keyword, and how you put them together to make the title better, the keywords better, and everything.
Yeah, it makes it so. Yeah, it makes it easy to be an expert even if you don't know that much, or to come off as an expert. So yeah, I'm sure some of you think I know a lot. I really don't. So
what is the difference between the witty and the enthusiastic and the friendly? There?
That's just the tone that it's being written in. So it's like just a slight adjustment in like the grammar and language that it uses. For example, Liquid Death, I don't know if you guys have heard of them before, but they're a pretty witty brand. And so if I want it to be written more quirky, witty, it's gonna write it in a
the
tone
way they're
that,
gonna write it. Okay,
yeah,
that's nice.
that's agreeable.
Nice. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll touch very briefly on some of these other tools. So if we're looking at for a private label, if we're trying to analyze a brand and their keyword strategy, I'm going to go to search terms, ad spy. This is going to show all of the brands' keywords that they're currently bidding on and appearing on in the sponsored sections. So it's going to have the sponsored win rate, this number one spot, the top group, the brand win rate, and then the video spot as well. And then if I click into these guys, I'll see the different brands competing and the different products competing.
So you went to the brand and then you went to Ad Spy. So the Ad Spy pretty much got all the keywords that they are bidding.
Correct.
To rank that brand.
Yes. Yeah. So if this brand has a product that is appearing on these keywords in the sponsored areas, it will show up here. The next tool is the keyword detective. And this is actually more so to see where you're lacking in your strategy. So for this brand on an organic and paid side, these are its two largest competitors in common search terms that they have together. Now, if I click on this shaded area, I'm actually going to be able to see Kimbo and these other two brands, the search terms that they're all bidding on. But in this unique column right here, if there's a check mark here, it means that these other two brands are using these keywords and I'm not using them.
Okay.
So, and to speak a little bit more to it, these brands, when you see these huge bubbles, it often means that they just have so many more products than yours and they may not be relevant. So it may make more sense to choose different brands for them to be on. So I can come in here, take these guys out, and put in some more relevant competitors.
Can you do that on a async level instead of a brand?
Yes. So, yeah. It'll work the same and function the same as well.
I'm planning on selling, specific async. I want to go there and see like the cost per click for the keywords, so I can have an idea of how much it costs me to advertise that kind of product.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll get to that in a second when I touch on these search terms, but yeah, you can do all that with keywords as well. Nice. This next one is first page keywords. So on that first page, what is your coverage? Like how much of that first page are you taking up organically? That's what this shows. So it's going to give you the search term, the estimated weekly volume, as well as the number of ASINs that are on that first page a majority of the time. Now, this is the total number of ASINs that have this search term in their listing, but not all of them are appearing on the first page. Here's the ones that are appearing on the first page.
Yeah, it makes sense because
Mm-hmm.
it's the name of the brand, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually a good gauge too. If Kimbo, if they're not, there's 48 spots on the first page. If they're not taking up all those spots, it's kind of a question of like, why are they not optimized? What's going on? Or is that intentional in a way? So yeah. This other one for private label, if you want to sell outside of the US and I'm analyzing a brand, if they sell in any of these markets, they'll show up here as well. And then I can click on these guys and do an analysis on them, see if it makes sense to expand.
Is there any plan to add Brazil as a marketplace as well?
Not right now. We haven't been able to find reliable data quite yet to reveal it to you guys. So yeah. Unfortunately, I think it's the fourth largest in the world, so it would be a good value add.
Yeah, it's growing, but no, I heard that before because most of the tools they don't have Brazil just because they have hard time getting the data, right?
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure why. I think it maybe has something to do with Amazon like releasing the data because that's where all this data comes from. Yeah. Well, great. So kind of moving on, search terms. So this is kind of the similar thing, but on a product level. It has some of the same tools, but it has more. So this rank maker is going to show you all of the current keywords that this product is ranking on organically, and then also the past 30 days on that. This smart score is going to show you the health of the keywords on the ASIN specifically. It's going to assign it a score between 0 and 100. The score is just taking into account the amount of search terms and how well they're doing on them. And then it's also going to show you the amount of search terms. It's also a good metric to see when stockouts are because I've found that most of the time when there's dips like this, it means that they stocked out maybe for a day and then, or their listing was down for a second. It's a good indicator of that. Keyword detective, again, it's the same thing, but on a product level.
Okay.
Relevancy quadrant, this is going to help you build your listing or expand on it. So it's taking the keywords in the subcategory and it's analyzing all of those guys and then also your common products that are relevant to your product. And it's showing you which ones have a high amount of searches and a high amount of relevancy to your product. So we call that the target quadrant. And that's in this top right corner. These are all keywords that would be good to add to your listing, organically or paid. Relevant products, these are going to be all the products that have common search terms, or the top 100 that have common search terms with your product, and then the relevancy. So this is good as well for if you're launching a new product, I can go into a product that I maybe want to copy, see who the competitors are, see if there's maybe one of these that I want to copy instead. It's a good kind of gauge. Now over here is the AdSpy tool. It's just for a specific product. So I'm going to see all of the search terms that this product is winning on.
Yeah, that's what I asked you. Yeah, that's
sponsored areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Great. One last thing I want to go into, the share of voice tool. It's really nice to see competition of a keyword market. So if I want to make paddle boards, I'm going to put in paddleboard right here, and I'm going to see all the brands competing on this keyword, their share of voice, so like their market share on that keyword, and then also their change in position and average price, monthly revenue. The main thing that I pay attention to is actually country of origin. If I'm going to launch a product, I if I'm trying to launch a paddleboard and I see that half of these or like more are Chinese companies, I don't know if I want to compete with them because they just have such higher margins and they're a lot more competitive. So it's another good way to gauge a market.
Is there a way to track those information? Let's say I want to launch a product. It's important to know, just like you said, the trends, if it's a trend or not, so I can get some
Mhm.
brands or some products and start tracking, I mean, the rank and the position of keywords, if they maintain like the first page or not.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is basically it's just a mix of the ad spy tool and the first page keywords tool.
Okay.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, great. So we also touched on bundling. I kind of forgot about this. I apologize, but the traffic graph. So this is great on a private label basis or a wholesale basis. Um, what we're going to see here is traffic through the frequently bought together section. So I'll type in an ASIN or a keyword, and it's going to show me all the products associated with that through the frequently bought together section. And if I click on one of these guys, anytime anyone bought one of these products, this product that we're looking at has shown up in the frequently bought together section 3,000 times, 1,200 times over the last 30 days.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So now I can take this and it's a great indicator for what I should bundle together, create bundle listings. It's also a great indicator if I have a private label and this guy is my competitor, I'm going to look at all these and create a targeted ASIN campaign to target this guy, try to show up in some of that traffic as well. Just it's a way to see organic traffic through Amazon, essentially. Like this is just Amazon putting out these numbers. It's not anyone can do to control it. So
That's nice. I mean, showing like how many times it show up, that's perfect.
exactly. Yeah.
Better than that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's basically it. One last thing I wanted to touch on that kind of differentiates us a little bit as a tool is that we actually show estimates for variations.
That's important.
Hmm. So we'll see the parent or most likely the parent, and then we divvy that up based on the proportion of reviews that the other children get. So there we go. Great. Any questions? That's all I have for you guys today. Is there any
Can you do
questions?
just
Anything?
a little bit for the online arbitrage? Because I don't think we talk about I
The
mean,
arbitrage?
yeah, just like how to filter for products for online arbitrage.
Oh yeah. So we can go through that. Yeah. So the product level, I'm sorry, we could have gone into that. I kind of touched a little bit on how to use it with brands and the locations and
Yeah,
sellers. But on a product level, it's going to be very similar to how we filter for brands. So going to make a low in stock rate, Amazon in stock rate, and then number of FBA sellers, 2 to 10. Buy box price, up to you guys, but I'm going to put in 20 and 80. From here, we'll make sure this is kind of what you guys feel comfortable with, but we're just going to make sure that everything checks out or that we don't see any red flags. Number of sellers, we could even limit that down to a max of 10 or
and
so.
you can even just filter for in stock or out of stock, right? That's which is great.
Right. And so the reason I kind of skipped over this is just because like Rodriguez, I think is that I'm sorry, I don't you have a lot of names in your name, but if what we touched on earlier is the out of stock may or may not be completely like accurate because it's not real time.
Okay.
So I don't use this as much, but you can if you want.
Okay.
And then monthly revenue, at least 20,000. now we're going to see the top products on Amazon with low competition that we can then try and source.
And you also can download the listing, right, and do like
Correct.
a reverse search in tática arbitrage if you want to.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. If I just click export, I can change the amount of rows I'm exporting, anything like that.
Yeah, and then from there, if you go, can you go to the listing and see the sellers, and then go inside the other sellers, just like I said, yeah. From the other sellers, see the other listings, and then you go from there. And
yeah, exactly. So I'll go in to details. I can see everyone on the buy box. It's not showing up for that one. Let's see back here. Let's just click on any of these guys.
And can you create a collection for the results as well?
Yes, you can. So to do that, I would come over here, go to collections, add to collection. Oh, and then, sorry, I thought it was taking a second to load. It already loaded. So then I'll click right here. I could click that to select everything, and then I can add that to a collection, new collection.
Because you can create like a collection for a specific category, and then you go just dive into the black hole, start going to seller, selecting pet products and adding to collection. Then you just do a reverse search on all the products.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I would say, so there's one thing for the arbitrage, instead of a seller cap, you might want to put like a seller minimum, maybe of like 5, just to make sure that no one seller is just like dominating. So yeah. There we go. Is there anything else from this point from an arbitrage perspective that would be helpful that I could go into?
I have a question.
Yeah.
You guys have some extension that we can work direct to the page on Amazon, or I have to go to the tool and go to the.
So right now, and that's kind of I would say the part that makes it the most clunky about arbitrage specifically, is that we don't have an extension yet. It is in the pipeline for us to create. It's being worked on right now, but we don't have it released yet.
Nice. Yeah, that was going to be one.
I'll click through though if you click on the products, right?
Oh yeah, if we click on the ASIN, it'll take us to the Amazon store.
Oh yeah.
And we can see it.
And one more question.
Yeah.
About the package. I was taking a look about the pricings. Everything you have shown to us today, I can find in which package?
So everything that I've shown to you today, you can find in basically the ad spy plan, which would be about $384 a month. It's past the business plan. But the way that it breaks down, the paid keyword data, that would be in the ad spy plan. Most of the organic data will be in the business and essentials plan. And then everything else will be in the essentials plan. Besides the ability to export, that one is also necessary in the business plan.
Okay.
Does that answer your question clearly? Sorry, I know it's kind of all over the place.
Yes.
Okay, great. Awesome. Any other questions for you guys that I can answer for you? Any other help that I could be as well?
I'm okay. I mean,
okay.
I do have a question.
Okay.
On the column on the products section, there's like 2 columns. One is 1-month growth and 12-month growth. Is that like solely based on revenue?
Yes.
Like month to month?
Yes. Yeah, if we wanted to get granular, so all of our revenue estimates are based off of ranking. If we want to get granular, it would be like it's basically based off of ranking at that point. So yeah, but it is based off the revenue and the growth.
Okay, perfect. Cool. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Any more questions?
And if we ever want to see, depending on the category you're selling in, if you ever want to see what that seller rank would translate into for unit sales, you can go to the sales estimator.
Yeah. Nice.
Great.
And you also have a FBA calculator, right? Which is
Yes.
much complicated than the Amazon FBA calculator.
Yeah. In this one, actually, too, it'll show the dimensions of your packaging. So if you're a private label, it'll show the dimensions of your packaging. And if you can get this number to this number, then you can save X amount on your FBA fee.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. So you do a little change and then you save a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, great.
Yeah, it was great. I appreciate
Right.
you guys' time. And
Yeah, of course.
yeah, so now it's good to have more knowledge. I know it's still a lot of things to learn because
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of features there, but
Yeah.
I believe we're able to answer lots of questions. So appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And thanks for having us on. We really appreciate it as well. If you have any questions, you can either go onto the site and ask Henry, he's in the little chat bubble, or you can shoot us an email.
All right. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Thank you,
Yeah, of
Michael.
course.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank
see
you
you.
guys so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you in the next event.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be there again.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye,
Thank you everyone for your time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
E aí, pessoal?
Eu tenho perguntas.
Agora o cara foi embora, você me pergunta?
Sim, porque eu quero perguntar para você.
Vai.
Então, eu não sei se eu comi mosca ou se... porque eu tenho o costume demais de usar o Helium 10, né? Eu acho que por usar o Helium 10, foi mais difícil de visualizar as coisas e entender um pouco a ferramenta. Pelo que eu entendi, ela é mais voltada para pesquisa de mercado, né? E criação de listings.
Sim. Mas o que você quer fazer em específico? Porque o Helium 10 é diferente. O Helium 10 ele tem um approach diferente, né?
E é porque eu não consegui pegar a vantagem de ter essa ferramenta em relação a outras que a gente já usa.
Cara, na verdade, eu acho que não seria ou essa ou a outra. Eu acho que essa aqui ela meio que complementa, né? Ela tem outros features também.
Aham. E você está usando essa ferramenta para quê especificamente?
Cara, eu tô usando mais hoje essa parte do AI dela ali. Eu gostei, eu nunca tinha usado ainda. Eu gostei. Você chega a usar ela, Senzinho? Aproveitar que o Senzinho tá aqui, ó. Figura ilustre aqui hoje. Mas eu gosto muito daquela parte do que mostra, né, para bundle, que mostra os produtos que mostra lá os also bought together lá, que lá é muito bom. Vai te dar uma ideia legal. Esse lance de ver os sellers também, para arbitragem, ele é bom, você consegue ver, tipo assim, você meio que você visualmente você consegue ver os produtos, entendeu?
Aham.
E é diferente, assim, o Kipa, eu acho que o Kipa ainda chega a ser um pouco mais completo do que ele nessa parte de filtragem das informações. Então, o Kipa tem mais informação,
Aham.
mas ele tem umas coisas legais ali também, entendeu? Essa parte da arbitragem é legal, para por bundle, ele tem uns featurezinhos legais também. E pro Private Label eu ainda não usei, né? Vou ver se eu começo a usar agora para ver.
Essa parte que ele cria, né, o título e os bullet points, parece bem interessante, né?
É bem interessante. Eu tenho que ter cuidado porque o AI ele não está vendo se tem alguma palavra que vai infringir alguma política. Isso aí tem que ficar de olho, entendeu?
Aham.
Porque às
E
vezes você
qual é
pega...
o pacote que você contrata deles?
Eu estou naquele de 189.
Ai, Jesus, Gustavo. E outra coisa, você falou, vai ter alguma promoção pra gente?
Tem 25%, 7 dias de graça, 25% nos primeiros 3 meses.
E se eu quiser o anual?
Aí eu não sei. Aí
Ok.
eu vejo
Tá
lá.
bom. Obrigada.
Beleza.
Fala, Gustavão.
Vai lá. E aí?
E
Legal?
aí? Não, tava esperando tu responder ali. Cara, aquele feature ali que ele mostrou do título do AI, eu já usei para fazer até os bundles que eu comentei contigo mais cedo.
Uhum.
Eu já usei sim. É a única ferramenta, na verdade, que eu uso.
Tá
Eu gosto
usando.
bastante. Tem bastante coisa, né? Eu acho ali que ele faltou algumas explicações ali. Acho que ele comeu bola também. Mas para quem faz arbitragem, tem bastante, assim, funções. Mais que porque é bem manual, sabe? Tem que fazer muito manual. Quem vem, por exemplo, sei lá, do tático, ele compara tudo ali, te dá as informações, só vai analisando. No Smart Scout, não, tu tem que ir manualmente ali, ou pesquisar onde está o produto, ou fazer a reversa. Mas eu gosto bastante.
Não, mas cara, eu acho que essas ferramentas, você nunca vai ter uma ferramenta que vai ser 100% completa. Uma vai acabar complementando a outra, né? Eu estou usando o Data Drive também para poder analisar aqui o Word. Cara, ele tem o AI bem legal, mas eu achei o AI dele para a criação do listing melhor, tá? Só que ele não faz acompanhamento de keyword que o Data Drive faz, entendeu? Você meio que você acaba ficando ali preso, né? Tipo assim, se você quiser realmente todos os features tudo certinho, você nunca vai conseguir ter uma ferramenta que vai fazer tudo. Você tem que ver
Né?
o que realmente
Exato.
você quer, ver o que realmente você quer e fala, não, beleza, cara, eu preciso do trabalho com arbitragem, com wholesale, eu vou precisar do Azinzen, isso aí você vai ter que precisar, não adianta, né? Cara, eu vou precisar do tático arbitragem, porque ali você analisa e tal, mas e aí? O tático arbitragem que vai te dar onde você vai comprar os produtos. Então, mas ele te dá uma lista legal. Eu gostei da forma que você consegue filtrar os produtos e você gerar uma lista de ASIN para você fazer a busca reversa no tático arbitragem depois, entendeu? Então,
Uhum.
é complicado, cara, porque vai só adicionando ferramenta, né, cara? Mas no final das contas, tipo, ferramenta, pessoal, eu sei, é um custo mensal, mas você tem que ver que, na verdade, é um investimento e ele é tax deductible, né? Então, é melhor você pagar mais, sei lá, 1.800 dólares por ano de uma ferramenta do que você pagar 1.800 dólares de imposto de renda no final do ano. Entendeu? Eu prefiro. E esses 1.800 que você vai pagar vai te ajudar a trazer um revenue muito maior, porque agora você tem mais ferramentas para te ajudar no seu business. Mas eu sei, às vezes você fica assim, né? Fala, cara, mais uma ferramenta, mais uma ferramenta, mas faz parte.
Senzinho, aproveitando que você está aí, então deixa eu ver se entendi. Então, ela faz a pesquisa dos produtos e aí você tem que fazer manualmente a pesquisa aonde está o produto, é isso? Assim que você usa.
É mais ou menos isso aí, vou dizer, sim. Ele mostrou ali, tem uma aba ali, que é a aba dos vendedores. Aí tu pode colocar ali, sei lá, pesquisar os vendedores, entrar nos produtos dos vendedores, e aí tu tem todos os produtos que supostamente vende bem, e aí tu vai ter que ir atrás desse produto em algum fornecedor, seja wholesale, seja no retail,
Uhum,
no Walmart, na Target e tal.
uhum,
Essa é uma forma de fazer. Ou tu pode entrar ali, também tem uma outra aba que é a de marcas, e aí tu pode pesquisar lá, colocar Starbucks e ver todos os listings também do Starbucks que tem, né? E ir procurando esse produto. Não tem uma forma automatizada de usar essa ferramenta. Basicamente, tu tem que fazer tudo manual. Ou tu tem um fornecedor, né? E vamos dizer assim, o meu fornecedor vende, não sei, vou dizer, o meu fornecedor vende Clorox.
uhum,
E aí tu vê todos os anúncios que o teu fornecedor vende de Clorox ali, todos os produtos, tu vai lá no Smart Scout e vê, né, filtra Clorox e comparar, meu fornecedor tem o produto A, o produto B, dá lucro, não dá e tal. Ou então faz a inversa que eu falei, que é tu procura o vendedor, né, e vai lá no teu fornecedor e tenta achar aquele produto do fornecedor. Mas é tudo manual, não tem forma automática de fazer isso.
entendi. Uhum.
Não tem lanche
E outra
grátis.
pergunta, aquele seller map, para que vocês usam ele especificamente?
Cara, o Seller Map, o nome já diz, sei lá, você quer pegar todos os vendedores da sua região aí, vendedores de grandes, entendeu? Você vai lá, você consegue filtrar e pegar o vendedor de tudo quanto é lugar dos Estados Unidos e dali você consegue, igual ele falou, vamos dizer, eu estou em New Hampshire, eu consigo pegar lá os vendedores que vendem até 200 mil dólares que estão em New Hampshire. E
Uhum,
ali separa se é reseller ou se é private label. Então, beleza, eu quero reseller. Tá, aí
uhum,
ali eu entro naqueles vendedores, eu vejo quais são os produtos que eles vendem, quais são as marcas que eles vendem, aí dali eu já vejo algum distribuidor e por aí vai, entendeu? É mais um ponto para você procurar distribuidor, de procurar produtos, por aí vai.
Uhum.
Só que é uma coisa, como eu falei, essa ferramenta ela é muito visual. A maioria das ferramentas é texto, né? É keyword, é gráfico. Ali não, ali é muito visual, isso é legal.
Mas
Você
ali
consegue colocar.
ele falou que ele só coloca, não são todos os vendedores da Amazon, né? Ele classifica um percentual lá, só
Total,
alguns
total de
maiores.
300 mil vendedores.
Mas esse é o total que tem?
Não, 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 não. O que ele pega. Não tem como ele pegar todos, né?
Tá, mas aí
Aí
então ele
você.
está pensando os maiores. E aí,
É
Sim,
os top 300 mil.
os tops 300 mil, é.
então às vezes eu não, eu sou uma que estou começando, não adianta eu querer.
Não, você não vai aparecer, mas você consegue desses
Não, não,
top 300 mil.
eu não quero aparecer, mas eu vou estar olhando um cara que está lá, é um top, e aí ele já tem uma negociação com um wholesale, um distribuidor já muito diferenciado, eu vou estar meio me frustrando, não chega a isso?
Pode ser também, mas não deixa de ser um ponto de partida, porque às vezes tudo bem, às vezes ele tem um produto ou outro que você não vai conseguir competir, mas daquele produto você consegue chegar em outros produtos, né?
Ai, como
Aquele
você.
produto, aquela
Um
coisa,
ou
né? É
outro que você
aquela
não
coisa
vai
que a gente
competir
fala,
é ótimo.
é aquela coisa que a gente fala do buraco negro, entendeu? Você cai lá, você cai num produto que o cara está vendendo. Aí daquele produto você abre, você vai ver outros vendedores. Aí daquele outros vendedores você consegue ver outros produtos, daquele outro, entendeu? Mas você vai fazendo igual a gente faz lá, você já consegue ir filtrando mais. Às vezes você parte de um ponto de partida de um cara que está ali perto, dali você consegue achar algum distribuidor, né? Sem brincadeira. Eu entrei ali na lista de suppliers, botei New Hampshire, cara, apareceu um supplier legal de, de ursinho bichinho de pelúcia, sabe? Aí eu joguei ele na Amazon, você abre ele na Amazon, cara, tem vários anúncios, tudo com 10 vendedores e tal. Quer dizer, a gente sabe que está aberto para reseller, é só entrar em contato agora e pegar a tabela de preço. Porque se tem um monte de vendedor vendendo, eles estão em New Hampshire, perto da minha warehouse e tal, quer dizer, é uma oportunidade ali, que eu simplesmente entrei, fiz uma busca ali rapidinho. Né? Se tu pega um distribuidor desse, acabou, já pagou o ano da ferramenta. Um achado desse. Entendeu? Isso que é legal, mas como você falou, cara, não é fácil, é manual. E ainda mais começando, porque ele é muito feature, é muita informação ali. Entendeu? Você não vai dominar essa ferramenta rápido, não. Ela tem muita coisa.
Foi o que eu percebi, porque ele já sabe como parametrizar para tirar melhor a informação.
Sim.
Para quem está começando, nossa, não vai conseguir usar. Não sei, me
Não,
pareceu
você
isso.
vai
Eu
conseguir
não
usar,
conheço,
você vai usando
né?
aos poucos, né? Devagarzinho você vai aprimorando ali as buscas e tal, o que você está fazendo, mas igual vocês, agora ele está usando mais para criar os anúncios. Tá? Eu vou fazer isso, eu vou testar agora. Meu próximo anúncio eu vou criar lá. Aí, de repente, eu já pego e já uso ela para otimizar um dos meus anúncios. E vou fazendo devagarzinho ali, usando os negócios e ver se realmente está dando resultado. Mas eles têm bastante feature legal, cara. Eu gosto de todos esses features que eles têm diferente.
Não, pareceu ser bem legal, viu? Achei legal mesmo.
Mais dúvida, galera? Então é isso, hein? Semana que vem a gente volta ao nosso do 0 a 10. Valeu, Senzinho, por participar. Eu botei para gravar e isso aqui eu vou subir lá no Clube Vai também, tá?
Valeu, Gustavo.
Valeu, gente. Boa noite.